Breaking free from the past to embrace a fresh start, ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the weight of yesterday threatens to bury the promise of tomorrow. We've all been there, haunted by past mistakes, broken by betrayal, paralyzed by regret. But I came here today to tell you something powerful. Your past is not your prison, it's your platform. You were not created to live in cycles of shame, fear, or failure. You were designed to rise, to evolve, and to walk boldly into a future that's greater than anything you've left behind. This is your moment, not to repeat history, but to rewrite it, and it all starts with one decision: to break free from what was and fully embrace what can be. You can't drive your future forward while staring in the rearview mirror of your past. Let's begin with a truth that's simple but often hard to swallow. You can't drive your future forward while staring in the rearview mirror of your past. Picture this. You're behind the wheel of a car, destination set, future full of possibility, but your eyes are glued to the mirror, fixated on what's behind. How far do you think you'll get before you crash? That's exactly how many of us live. Moving, yes, but constantly distracted by yesterday. We try to build businesses, relationships, and dreams, all while rehearsing the hurts, failures, and regrets that were meant to shape us, not define us. And the longer we stare back, the more our present blurs and our future disappears behind the fog of our memories. Listen, your rear view mirror is small for a reason. It's just a reference point, not your focus. But some of us have turned it into a window, replaying old conversations, reliving past heartbreaks, reanalyzing decisions that are already done. And here's the truth: as long as you're emotionally anchored to a moment that's already over, you're not free to move into the moment that's beginning right now. Some people think reflecting on the past is wisdom, but there's a fine line between reflection and obsession. Reflection learns, obsession limits. There's wisdom in gleaning the lessons of what was, but there's bondage in reliving the wounds of what broke. The enemy of your destiny doesn't always come in the form of failure. It often comes as memory. Yes, memory. The enemy loves to weaponize what you remember against what you're called to become. Every time you take a bold step forward, your mind replays the moments you fell. Every time you dream again, your past whispers, "Don't forget how it ended last time." And without realizing it, we start living from a mindset that says the past is more powerful than the future. But the devil is a liar. If your past was more powerful than your future, you wouldn't still be alive. You're breathing right now because God still has purpose for your life, and purpose doesn't live in what you've been through. It lives in what you're willing to step into. Let me say this clearly: the past may explain you, but it doesn't have the authority to define you. Maybe you grew up in dysfunction. Maybe you made mistakes that hurt others. Or maybe others made decisions that hurt you. That's real, that matters, but hear me, your pain has a place, and it's behind you. Your scars have a story, but they are not your identity. Your future doesn't ask for permission from your past, so why do you keep trying to earn a new season while clinging to old evidence? You don't need permission from the version of you that failed. You need a decision from the version of you that's ready to rise, because driving forward while looking backward is not just dangerous, it's self-sabotage. Think of a plane preparing for takeoff. It builds momentum, it generates power, but eventually it must lift off the ground. Your past is the run, where it gave you the speed, the pain, the pressure, even the perspective. But now it's time to lift. If you keep riding that runway over and over, eventually you'll crash from the wear. Some of us are grounded not because we lack the power, but because we refuse to release the weight. The weight of regret, the weight of guilt, the weight of what people said, the weight of what didn't happen. But can I tell you something? You were never meant to carry all that. The reason your soul feels heavy isn't because your future is too big, it's because your past is riding with you when it should have been left behind. And don't be fooled into thinking that staying connected to your past is a form of loyalty. Some people wear their past like a badge of honor, as if letting go means betrayal, but holding on isn't loyalty, it's limitation. You're not betraying your roots by growing past them. You're not dishonoring your past by healing from it. In fact, the greatest tribute you can give your story is to not be trapped in its worst chapters. Move on, move up. Let the past be what it was, and let the future be what you decide it will be. You see, forward is a mindset. It's not just direction, it's intention. People who move forward don't wait until they feel ready. They move when it's time, and newsflash, it's time. It's time to take your hands off the rewind button. Time to quit fantasizing about what you could have done, should have said, or might have been. None of that is real. But what is real is the opportunity in front of you. The new day, the new vision, the fresh start that's already waiting, not in your memories, but in your movement. So today, I challenge you, check the mirror if you must, but don't live in it. Glance back to remember, but gaze forward to build. Your future deserves the full attention of your faith, your energy, and your focus. The road ahead is wide open, but only if you have the courage to look up, let go, and drive. Pain may have been your teacher, but it doesn't have to be your prison. Pain, it's a language we've all learned to speak without a translator. It shows up uninvited, sits down without warning, and teaches lessons that no classroom ever could. Yes, pain is a teacher. It teaches you who's real when life gets ugly. It teaches you how to rise when everything's crumbling. It teaches you how to cry, how to fight, how to endure. But here's what you need to hear today. Just because pain taught you something doesn't mean it gets to keep you as a student. At some point, you have to graduate. At some point, you have to stop letting what broke you continue to bind you. Because while pain is a powerful teacher, it becomes a cruel prison if you don't learn when to leave. And some of us, let's be honest, we've turned our wounds into walls. We've stayed in the classroom of pain so long that we stopped believing there's a life beyond survival. We don't dream anymore, we don't trust, we don't hope. We tell ourselves, I'm just being realistic. When really, we've just gotten used to settling for less than we deserve because pain made us forget what freedom looks like. You see, pain doesn't just hurt, it shapes. It shapes your beliefs, your behaviors, your self-image. It whispers lies that sound like truth. You'll always be alone. You're not good enough. You'll never recover from this. And if you don't challenge those lies, they become your narrative. You start living from wounds instead of wisdom. But you were not created to stay wounded. You were created to heal. The wound was the test, not the identity. And healing isn't pretending it didn't hurt. Healing is refusing to give your pain the final word. Because what pain wants is for you to sit in the same place emotionally, spiritually, mentally for the rest of your life. It wants you to normalize dysfunction, to accept misery, to stop reaching for more. But that's not living, that's surviving, and you didn't make it through all that fire just to settle for ashes. Let's be real, some of the greatest lessons in life are wrapped in pain. You learned who you were when everything went wrong. You discovered your strength not when things were easy, but when they were hell. But here's what I need you to get deep in your spirit. Just because pain played a part in your becoming doesn't mean it gets to control your becoming. There is a line between growth and bondage, and for too many people, that line is blurred. They confuse being strong with being stuck. I'm strong because I don't trust anymore. No, that's not strength. That's trauma talking. I'm wise because I push everyone away. No, that's not wisdom. That's fear pretending to protect you. True strength is when you can say, yes, I was hurt, but I will love again. Yes, I was broken, but I will believe again. Yes, I've been through hell, but I'm not staying there. You were never meant to make your home in pain. Pitch a tent if you must, cry if you need to, wrestle through the grief. But don't build a house in the valley. Don't hang pictures on the walls of heartbreak. Don't decorate the dungeon and call it destiny, because the more you get comfortable with pain, the more unfamiliar peace will feel. You'll sabotage good things because your soul only knows struggle. You'll reject joy because you're waiting for it to disappear. That's what happens when pain becomes a prison. It convinces you that freedom is a lie, but the truth is you are allowed to heal. You are allowed to walk away from what hurt you without needing anyone's permission. You are allowed to stop telling the same sad story just to feel seen. You are allowed to build something beautiful, even if no one ever apologized for what they broke. Let me tell you something radical. You don't owe your pain loyalty. You don't owe your trauma your identity. Yes, pain played a part, but it was only a part. It doesn't get to be the whole movie, and if you let it, God will take the very thing that tried to destroy you and use it as the foundation for your next level. But he can't do that if you keep reliving it, rehearsing it, recycling it in every conversation and decision. At some point, you've got to stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. At some point, you have to say, I've cried enough tears over this. I've spent enough nights awake. I've given this pain enough of my joy, my peace, my years. No more. I'm choosing freedom, even if I have to fight for it. And make no mistake, freedom is a fight. It's not passive. It doesn't just show up one morning with a sunrise. Freedom is messy. It's facing the mirror. It's digging deep. It's forgiving people who may never say sorry. It's forgiving yourself for what you didn't know then. It's walking away from circles where pain is the only thing people bond over. It's breaking cycles and breaking silence, but every step toward healing is a step toward power. Every time you say, that's not my story anymore, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And piece by piece, you rebuild a life where pain is no longer the architect. Purpose is. So today, decide that the lessons were enough. The pain did its job, it opened your eyes, it strengthened your soul. But now it's time to walk out of the classroom, drop the chains, and step into a life that's no longer shaped by suffering, but by strength. Pain may have been your teacher, but it does not get to be your prison. If God gave you breathe this morning, He's not done building your break. If God gave you breathe this morning, He's not done building your breakthrough. That single breath you took when you opened your eyes today wasn't random. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just biology. It was divine confirmation that purpose is still in motion. Too many people walk through life as if they're expired, as if their chance came and went, as if the best is behind them. But if God woke you up, He woke you up on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. You're not here to just exist. You're not here to repeat cycles. You're not here to survive another Monday. You're here because something in this world needs what's inside you, and your breakthrough, no matter how delayed, is still being written by the hand of the author who never puts down his pen. So don't confuse delay with denial. Don't confuse silence with absence, and don't you dare confuse the middle of your journey with the end of your story. If there's breath, there's business. If there's life, there's a launch. See, what most people don't realize is that breakthrough doesn't always begin with fireworks. It doesn't always look like a grand announcement or a public victory. Sometimes breakthrough begins with the quiet decision to try again, to believe again, to show up again when everything in you says, what's the point? That moment, that choice, is the spark of a new chapter. And that's the proof that God is still working behind the scenes, because even when you don't feel strong, something in you still refuses to quit. That's not just willpower. That's not just mindset. That's divine evidence that heaven isn't finished with you. God didn't breathe life into you today for you to live bound by yesterday's battles. He didn't wake you up so you could spend another day in self, doubt, shame, or stagnation. He woke you up because there's still something you haven't touched yet, something you haven't built, spoken, healed, conquered, or birthed into the world. Some of you have been walking around with a survivor's limp, still hurting from the last season, thinking that your destiny got lost somewhere in the wreckage, but hear me, God doesn't abandon what He begins. He's a finisher. He didn't start your story to leave it half written. He didn't give you vision to mock you. He didn't let you taste purpose so you could live in bitterness. No, if it hasn't come to pass yet, it just means He's still setting the stage. The breakthrough is being built, not based on your timeline, but based on your transformation. And yes, it's frustrating when it takes longer than you thought. Yes, it's painful when the promise seems distant. But that's not the time to fold, that's the time to fortify your faith, because your current situation does not cancel your calling. What you see in the natural does not limit what God can do in the supernatural. And breakthrough often shows up in the exact place where you almost gave up. Let me speak to the one who's been grinding in silence, who's been praying and planting and waiting with no applause. God sees you. You may feel invisible to people, but you're not invisible to Him. Every seed you've sown in faith is being watered by your persistence. Every prayer you whispered in the dark is echoed in the halls of heaven. Every act of obedience, even when it didn't make sense, is being compounded into breakthrough. You're not behind, you're being built. Just like a house takes shape long before it's unveiled, your next level is already under construction. So stop comparing your chapter 4 to someone else's chapter 14. Their blessing isn't your blueprint. Stay faithful to what God has placed in your hands, and He will release what He has prepared for your heart. But let's be real, breakthrough isn't always a blessing that falls in your lap. Sometimes breakthrough is built brick by brick, decision by decision, moment by moment. It's not magic, it's motion. You've got to move in the direction of the promise. God gives you breathe, but you've got to use it. Use it to speak life. Use it to worship when it hurts. Use it to declare freedom when fear creeps in. You don't wait for breakthrough. You walk toward it. You don't need everything to be perfect before you step forward. God didn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So even if you feel unprepared, unworthy, or uncertain, take the step anyway. Start the business. Write the book. Apply for the job. Leave the toxic relationship. Heal the hidden trauma. Begin the journey, because God breathes purpose into motion, not into passivity. And when the breakthrough comes, and it will come, it won't be because you manipulated the process. It won't be because you earned it through perfection. It will be because you trusted the process long enough for God to complete what He started. Your breakthrough will be the evidence of your endurance, the fruit of your faith, and the testimony of how God never forgot about you. The same God who gave you breathe today is the same one writing your future, even when you don't feel it. So stand tall, wipe your tears, shake the dust off your dreams. Your breath is your receipt. Your life is your license. Your presence on this earth is the proof that your purpose still has pages left to be written. So the next time you feel like quitting, remember this. If God gave you breathe this morning, He's not done building your breakthrough. Don't waste the gift. Don't delay the assignment. Breathe deep, step forward, and build like the promise is already on the way, because it is. Your history is not your destiny, unless you choose to relive it. Your history is not your destiny, unless you choose to relive it. That's the truth most people never want to confront, because it puts the power and the responsibility right back in their hands. It's easy to blame the past. It's convenient to say, this is just how things have always been, or people like me don't get to break through, or I guess this is just my lot in life. But let me tell you something, history can inform you, but it should never imprison you. You are not what happened to you. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are not the product of your pain. You are the evidence that purpose can rise from broken places. The moment you start using history as your compass instead of your context, you trap yourself in a loop that was never meant to repeat, and the tragedy isn't that history happened. The tragedy is when people let it keep happening because they replay it, relive it, and re-identify with it over and over again. Your history may explain your scars, but it cannot dictate your steps unless you hand it the steering wheel. Some people have spent years repeating the same patterns because they never made the decision to challenge the script. Maybe your parents lived small. Maybe they were angry, addicted, or absent. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, "Don't get your hopes up," or "People like us don't make it," or "You should be happy with what you have." So now, even when opportunity knocks, you question it. Even when love shows up, you sabotage it. Even when doors open, you hesitate, because your history trained you to expect the worst. But hear this loud and clear: what you were born into does not have to be what you die in. You can break cycles, you can shatter ceilings, you can unlearn dysfunction. Just because it's been your normal doesn't mean it has to be your forever. You don't owe your past an explanation. You owe your future a decision. It starts with mindset. If you see yourself through the lens of your history, you will shrink every time your destiny demands expansion. You'll measure your potential by what you've seen, what you've done, or what you've failed to do, when in reality, your future isn't built from history, it's built from hope. Hope that dares to believe that something better is possible. Hope that steps out even when the ground isn't guaranteed. Hope that refuses to live in the shadow of past shame, fear, or regret. The problem is, most people want destiny without discomfort. They want change without challenge. They want progress, but they won't release the past. You cannot carry a new vision while dragging an old identity. Something has to break, and 9 times out of 10, that something is you. Your old way of thinking. Your excuses, your need for certainty, your addiction to what's familiar, even if it's unhealthy. Because destiny doesn't live in your comfort zone. It lives on the other side of your decision to evolve. Let's get practical. Some of you are in cycles right now not because God hasn't moved, but because you haven't. You keep going back to the same people, the same habits, the same emotional patterns, expecting a new result. That's not destiny, that's self-deception. If nothing changes, nothing changes, and I know that change is hard. I know walking away from what's familiar feels like tearing off a part of yourself, but it's not a loss, it's a trade. You are trading survival for freedom. You are trading pain for purpose. You are trading history for hope, and it is worth it. Let me be clear, you are not betraying your past by outgrowing it. You are not disloyal for leaving behind what no longer serves your next level. You are not obligated to stay small just because people around you are comfortable with who you used to be. Growth is uncomfortable because it threatens the version of you that got used to living with limitations. But you were not designed to live confined. There's something in you that's bigger than the story you've been telling yourself. There's a version of you that's been buried under old labels, old patterns, and old pain waiting to rise. And the reason you've been so restless lately, the reason you can't find peace in old places, is because your destiny is calling louder than your history. It's time to stop answering the call of your past. It's time to stop romanticizing what broke you. It's time to stop rehearsing what didn't work. You've outgrown it, and now it's time to outlive it. Do not let the fear of the unknown keep you married to the misery you've mastered. Familiar bondage is still bondage, and just because you've learned how to function in dysfunction doesn't mean it's where you belong. Sometimes you have to be willing to be misunderstood in order to be free. You have to let people talk. You have to let them say, "You've changed," and be okay with it. Because guess what? You have, and that change is not rebellion. It's revelation. It's the realization that you are not chained to a story you didn't choose. You can turn the page, you can write a new one, you can break the pattern, you can break the silence, you can break the expectation, you can break the rules that were never written for your freedom, only your fear. Let me tell you something radical. The most spiritual thing you can do sometimes is walk away. Walk away from the narrative that says you'll never be more. Walk away from the identity built on trauma. Walk away from the version of you that was shaped by scarcity, insecurity, and survival. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need approval to evolve. You just need the courage to say, "This stops with me." The generational patterns. They stop with me. The limiting beliefs, they stop with me. The emotional avoidance, the broken relationships, the toxic loyalty to pain, it stops here. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you finally know better. And when you know better, you must do better. So yes, your history has power, but only the power you give it. And today, I'm challenging you to take that power back. You are not here to relive the pain of your past. You are here to redeem it. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to break them. You are not here to conform to the script. You are here to rewrite it. Your history is not your destiny, unless you choose to keep reading from the same chapter. So flip the page. Let go of the version of you that was built in survival. Step into the version of you that's ready to live in full, unapologetic freedom. Because destiny isn't waiting in the past, it's waiting in the decision you make right now. Your next chapter requires a new character. Don't bring old habits into a new harvest. Your next chapter requires a new character. Don't bring old habits into a new harvest. See, so many people are praying for breakthrough, begging for elevation, crying out for open doors. But they're trying to walk through new opportunities dressed in outdated mindsets. They're standing in front of fresh soil, still carrying the seeds of dysfunction from a life they claim to be done with. But here's the truth. A new season demands a new self. You can't step into your next level dragging the same excuses, the same laziness, the same fear, the same bitterness, the same procrastination, the same toxic loyalty to comfort. What got you here is not what will take you there. Your habits are either helping you build your future or silently destroying it, one compromise at a time. Harvest doesn't come just because you desire it. It comes because you've been disciplined enough to sustain it. And if your character doesn't match the magnitude of your calling, what you prayed for can quickly become what you're not prepared to handle. God is not just interested in giving you the blessing. He's interested in making sure you're built to keep it. So let's get real. You want that next chapter. You want the business to explode, the relationship to thrive, the doors to swing open, the influence to expand. Good. But now ask yourself, am I the person who can carry it without cracking? Am I the kind of person who shows up on time, honors my word, stewards my mind, protects my peace, and tells the truth even when it's hard? Or am I still the version of me who makes excuses, blames others, delays obedience, and expects elevation without transformation? Because let me tell you something, old habits are the silent assassins of new seasons. They don't look dangerous at first. They look familiar, comfortable, justified, but let those habits follow you into your next chapter, and they will quietly undo what you fought and prayed and bled to build. You can't carry the weight of a new level with the discipline of your old one, and make no mistake. Harvest doesn't mean ease. Harvest means work. When the fruit starts coming in, the lazy get exposed. When the spotlight hits, character gets revealed. See, people romanticize harvest seasons. They think it's all joy and victory and overflow. But the truth is, the harvest is heavy. And if you haven't cultivated the inner character to match the outer blessing, you will drop what God gave you. Ask anyone who has stepped into their purpose. It didn't get easier, it got real. It revealed everything they hadn't dealt with, the fear they hadn't faced, the ego they hadn't tamed, the discipline they hadn't built. That's why God doesn't just hand you everything you ask for on day one. He delays some doors not to punish you, but to protect you, because some of you are praying for platforms you don't have the character to steward yet. You're asking for exposure when you haven't yet developed the endurance. You want the crown, but you're still thinking like a captive. You want the reward, but you're still stuck in rebellion. So here's the question that shifts everything. What am I bringing into this next chapter that no longer belongs? What belief, what behavior, what boundary do I need to leave behind to step fully into what's next? Because your next level won't negotiate with your excuses. It won't compromise with your comfort zone. It won't lower itself to accommodate your old identity. If you want it, you have to rise, period. You have to confront the sabotage you've normalized. You have to stop playing the victim in stories you've had the power to rewrite. You have to stop waiting for the right moment to become who you already know you're called to be. The shift won't come when it's easy, it'll come when you decide to show up different, decide to think different, decide to act like the future version of you has already arrived, because your habits aren't just shaping your day, they're shaping your destiny. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about being honest with yourself and saying, if I keep doing what I've always done, I will keep getting what I've always got. You can't live in cycles and expect progress. You can't water weeds and pray for flowers. And you can't keep repeating yesterday's habits while asking for tomorrow's harvest. Your habits are prophetic. They predict where you're going long before you arrive. You show me your patterns and I'll show you your future. So what needs to shift? Maybe it's the way you talk to yourself. Maybe it's the way you show up in relationships. Maybe it's your time management, your integrity, your emotional discipline, or your spiritual focus. Whatever it is, name it and replace it, because the harvest is too precious to forfeit over habits you had the power to change. And don't underestimate the grace of God in this process. He doesn't call the perfect, He calls the willing. He doesn't expect you to have it all figured out, but He does expect movement, growth, surrender, the willingness to say, I may not know exactly how to become the next version of me, but I refuse to drag the old version into what's next. That's where transformation begins. Not in having all the answers, but in having the courage to let go of what's no longer worthy of your next chapter. Because favor without foundation is fragile, and elevation without preparation leads to collapse. God isn't just building your platform, He's building you. He's building patience in the hidden seasons. He's building resilience through the delays. He's building strength through the struggle. But when the harvest shows up, you better be ready to handle it, because what you've been praying for is on the way. But whether it blesses you or breaks you depends on the version of you that receives it. So today, make the decision. I will not drag dysfunction into destiny. I will not carry procrastination into purpose. I will not bring small thinking into big spaces. I will not let fear sit in the driver's seat of a future built by faith. I will show up differently. I will think differently. I will prepare as if the harvest is guaranteed, because with God it is. But that harvest demands a new version of me, a stronger version, a bolder version, a more disciplined, more focused, more faith-filled version. Not a perfect version, but a progressing one. So no, I'm not bringing the old me into this next chapter. I'm not repeating the old patterns. I'm not dressing my dysfunction in justification. I'm rising. I'm rebuilding, I'm becoming, because what's next isn't waiting for who I used to be. It's waiting for who I've decided to become.